Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to take you through one of the most important document or register that you have to consider in every project environment. So have you ever heard someone saying, can you check the stakeholder register? Have you ever heard someone saying, we need to go through the stakeholder register to understand the engagement plan for the stakeholders or even the communication for the stakeholders? So having stakeholders in a project is quite important. Also, understanding and managing these stakeholders in a project environment is also very, very important. So this is what we're going to cover in this video. We're going to try to understand what is a stakeholder. We are also going to cover why we need a stakeholder, why we need to understand stakeholders in a project environment. So let's move on. So during the initiation of a project, there is a process called identification of stakeholders. It's normally done in the initiation stage of the project. So what exactly is that process supposed to represent? This is a process where you identify stakeholders in a project. You could be asking, Oscar, what is a stakeholder in a project? So a stakeholder is either an individual, a business, or even an organization, or even government that is impacted by the project, either positively impacted or negatively impacted, even if they are also perceived to be impacted or to be affected by the project. They are all considered to be stakeholders. So stakeholder is anyone who is impacted negatively or positively, or is perceived to be impacted by the project. In some cases, they just want to define them as someone who has got interest in the project, negative interest or even positive interest. So a stakeholder is a very important part in a project environment. If you want to understand and also appreciate what is a stakeholder in a project environment, I've also created a full video on stakeholder management. You can also watch it on my channel. I'll also leave a link in the description below. So stakeholder management in a project environment is very, very important. But you cannot start by managing stakeholders before identifying them. So the first process is to identify the stakeholders in the project. So that is done through the initiation stage of a project. So when you're identifying the stakeholders in a project, it's expected that there are certain information that you're going to be capturing as you identify the stakeholders. So in this video, we are going to cover this register called Stakeholder Register, which is an outcome or an output of stakeholder identification. So let us understand what we're going to cover in this particular video. So understanding a stakeholder is very important. Anyone who is affected positively or negatively, anyone who is impacted positively or negatively, or who is perceived to be impacted by the project, or who has got interest in the project, they are all classified as stakeholders in a project. In this section of the video, we are going to cover the understanding of what is a stakeholder register. So basically, a stakeholder register is a document that is used to identify people, organization, or business in a project who are impacted negatively or positively by the project, and also recording their details, their information in the register. I hope you're enjoying the video so far. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe button, and the notification button, so that you're the first person to be notified each time a new video is uploaded on this channel. It will also help this channel to grow. It will also help this channel to produce more videos like this one. There are three main characteristics of a project stakeholder register. The first one is it is a living document. I can tell you from my experience, don't ever do the mistake I've seen, or don't ever make the mistake I've seen with other project managers. They just do the identification and also the updating of the register during the first stages of the project. Then they leave it like that. That's not the correct way of doing it. Stakeholder register must be recorded, updated throughout the project, which means from the beginning of the project all the way up to the end of the project, you should be updating your stakeholder register. So that is one characteristic that you should expect. It is a living document. It's a document that is always updated throughout the project. Then the second characteristic that you are also going to see on stakeholder register, or that you have to master on stakeholder register, is it's always dynamic. You could be asking, what do you mean by dynamic? So during the project, stakeholders, they come and go. depending on the type of the project and then the industry of the project that you are executing. There are certain projects where you might need certain stakeholders during the initiation or the initial stages. Then also during execution, you might need certain stakeholders, and also even during closing of the project. I can give you a good example. When it comes to construction projects, you might find that initially you are working so much with the regulator, okay, because there are so many compliance issues that is to be met. Then in the middle of the project, that is during the execution, you won't see much of a regulator. Probably towards the end, you also see much of the regulators. Another example is a core banking implementation project where you're changing from the old system to the new one. And in this particular instance, you'll find in terms of business analysts, you need them, even functional users, you need them during the first stages of the project. That's when you're planning your requirements. That's when you're confirming your requirements. That's when you're collecting your requirements. But during the build stage, which is normally done by developers, you won't need much of the functional BAs. You might be consulting once in a while. I'm not saying you don't need to consult with them, but during the development or the build of the system, where the programmers are actually hitting the keyboard, you might not even need more of their time. So their influence, their power, and their requirements, their efforts that is required, you won't need it at that time. Then during testing, you might bring back all those BAs again to test the system. I'm talking of this banking example of system change. So during testing, you also need these BAs and also the functional users to test the system. So stakeholders, they always change throughout the project. They don't change in terms of numbers. They don't change in terms of names only. They even change in terms of power. They even change in terms of even influence, which they have. Some they even change in terms of their requirements or even expectations. So that's one of the characteristics of a stakeholder register. It is always dynamic. Then the third characteristic of a stakeholder register is that it is an output of a process called identify stakeholder, which is actually processed or which is executed during the initiation stage of a project. So it's actually an output, but it's a very, very important output. So you need to make sure you appreciate those three characteristics of a stakeholder register, whether a project manager, whether a program manager, or even just even a project member. It is a living document. You update it throughout the project, and it is also dynamic. It changes. Stakeholders, they come and go depending on what type of project you're running, and also their influence also changes from one stage to the other, from one phase to the other. So it is also quite important that you appreciate that. Then it's also an output of a process of identifying a stakeholder. If you want to dive deeper into understanding and appreciating project management as a whole, I've also created for you a very comprehensive ebook, which you can also access using the link in the description below. You could be asking, Oscar, what are examples of these stakeholders? So in this section of the video, I'm going to take you through some examples of stakeholders that you should expect in a project environment. So one of them is a project sponsor. I can tell you it will be very unusual to run a project without a sponsor. So a sponsor is the one whose responsibility is to make sure that the project is well resourced. The project is well resourced, whether it's human resources or non-human resources. If you want to understand more about the responsibilities or the role of a project sponsor, I've created a full video on a project sponsor. You can also watch it on my channel. I'll also leave a link in the description below. So a project sponsor is one of the main stakeholders. You should always make sure that the expectations are well documented, because they can make or break a project. Let me tell you from my experience, the moment you have the project sponsor on your side, it makes life very easy in your project. But if the project sponsor is not on your side, you're always going to have issues. And some of them is to do with availability of resources from functional areas. And also some funding. You might have some extra expenses in the project, unforeseen expenses or unplanned expenses that might come in. So if the relationship between you as a project manager and the project sponsor is very good, life becomes very easy. So a project sponsor is one of the key stakeholder you must always keep recorded in your register. You might always want to have a face-to-face discussion or meeting with this project sponsor. Try to understand their expectations, their requirements also. That is very, very important. Then one of the stakeholder you have to put in your register is the project team. There is no way you can run a project without a project team. A project team is the one that is responsible for building the deliverables. It's the one that is responsible for making sure that the project is achieving what it's supposed to achieve in terms of objective and also in terms of goals. So the project team is also a stakeholder. It might not be just one side of the people. It might not be even one department. A project team is normally cross-functional. What do we mean by this? It means it has got so many people from different departments. It could be finance, it could be research, it could be ICT, it could be HR, and so on and so forth. So understanding also their expectation and also their requirements as a project team, that is very important. Some might require even training, some might require weekly communication, and so on and so forth. So a project team is also a very, very important stakeholder in a project. They are the ones who are going to deliver the project. Then you also have customers or users. So in every project setup, starting with the project board, even the project team, and also even the quality team, you always have customers and users. Who are customers? Customers are the end beneficiaries of the project. They are the ones who are going to use whatever is going to come out of the project, whether it's going to be a result, they're going to use that result, whether it's going to be a product, they're going to use that product, whether it's going to be a service, they're going to use that service. So customers and users must be recorded in the stakeholder register. That is also very, very important to consider. Then, before you execute any project, you will always have some interaction with senior management. Senior management are the ones who are going to determine how the project is going to be run. So they are also part of the stakeholders that you have to consider in a project environment. Then you also have suppliers and vendors. They are also very, very important to consider. And then even the regulatory authority, whether it's city council, it's government, and so on and so forth. So you might also have functional managers who provide resources or the team into the project. You also need to keep that in the stakeholder register. And in this section of the video, I'm going to take you through the elements or the sections that you have to consider in a project stakeholder register. So let us go through the elements or the sections one by one. The first one that is expected is the name. I can tell you, you need to record the name of the stakeholder. You need to identify them. I understand there could be some cases where you are not even aware of the name, individual names. It is also best to use the organizational name at that point. So you put your names there. That is very important. For example, you might say it's marketing department. You might even say external auditor, or even you can put actual names like Oscar and so on. So the second element is the position or the role. So in a position, what we mean is what is the role of that project stakeholder in the project. For example, you might have a quality assurance specialist. You might also have a scrum master or even a testing lead or testing manager. So the role or the position of the stakeholder must be also recorded in the stakeholder register. Then it also comes to contact information. How are you going to communicate with the stakeholder? So this is also very, very important. For example, you might want to communicate with the stakeholder using a phone. You might want to use an email or even physical address. So contact information is very, very important. And I can tell you that is why it's recommended, and I also used it in my project, that some of this personal information, you have to limit access to them. You know, some personal information must not be divulged to so many people. So just make sure that information like contact information, phone number, address, and so on and so forth, they are well protected according to the compliance of the project. Don't allow each and everyone to pick all this information. Otherwise, it might cause unnecessary commotion in the project. Then the fourth one that we have to look at is requirements. You must have some high-level needs for the project and product, high-level needs for the stakeholder. So each and every stakeholder, they might have different needs in a project. Someone might say, we want a weekly report, as an example. Someone will say monthly report. Rarely do you find someone saying daily. Then some might even say, we need some budget approval. There are so many requirements that might come from them. They might not be related so much into the actual project deliverables, but you find there are also requirements which they are requiring the project to be communicated to be engaged in as stakeholders. So that has to be also recorded. Then we have expectations. This is quite broad. So most stakeholders, they have certain expectations in a project. Remember, we went through the list or examples of stakeholders: sponsor, we went through project team, functional managers, regulatory body, vendors and suppliers. They are also part of examples, customers. So they have different expectations in a project. And these expectations must be managed. So how do we manage? We have to first identify them, the stakeholders. We record them in the stakeholder register. We record the expectation. For example, you might have someone who might say, we want to have on-time delivery, as an example, or even 0 defects, as an example. Or you might have even a finance guy who is saying, we want a return on investment within 12 months. So there are certain expectations that you have to register. That you have to also collect and document in the stakeholder register. That is very, very important for stakeholders. And the last one that we have is classification. What do you mean by classification? So classification is how the stakeholder is actually categorized by the project team. For example, you might say we want to categorize them as high, medium, or low in terms of stakeholders. Or more, you might want to say we want to categorize them like is friendly to the project, is hostile or even resistant to the project, or is someone who is neutral, whether it's an organization or it's an individual. So that classification also needs to be recorded in a stakeholder register. So these are the 6 main elements that you should expect to record in a stakeholder register: the name of the stakeholder, whether individual name or organization, the position or the role, what are they going to play in the project, what is their role in their organization, contact information, how are we going to communicate with them, is it through a phone, is it through email, or is it through physical address. Then we're also looking at the requirements. What is it they expect? What is it they want in the project? They want weekly report, as an example, or they want monthly report, as an example. And then expectation. What are they expecting? Maybe return on investment to be within 2 months, as an example. They are expecting 0 defects, as an example. Then you classify them. Are they friendly? Are they neutral? Are they hostile or resistant to the project? So this is very, very important to consider when you're creating a stakeholder register. Remember, the register will also need to be tailored to the particular project environment. It's not like a cast in stone, but there are certain main components that you should expect to record. For example, you cannot have a stakeholder without a name, whether individual name or organization. If you want me to create more videos based on what we have covered in this video, or there's something that you think is not clear that requires clarification from my end, you can reach out to me, or you can let me know in the comment section below. Thank you for watching.